Yeah, as you can see, I went from I usually do in September because no educational institutions are really pro education, not their own education, anyways. So I went from my Dr. Eumenix, which was Jonathan Livingston Seagull, right? The wings and the tail going fast, to my accountability Wolverine, let's say, Carcajou, beard. And here's an example of an organization that lost me. And they lose me because they just don't undergo the maturation process. They don't develop community values. They don't reference others in fair and equal ways. They don't know how to support each other in a team concept. They don't know how to self correct. And it's sad. And I'm listening to the news today on the 17th of September 2025. And EB's going to travel to Ottawa to try his new knock knock jokes over there. And it's all talk about, fossil fuel industry in the news and climate change and wildfires and trying to get money back for that. And nobody's noticing, whoo, listen to the patterns of the news. Yes, we cannot self correct. We cannot start connecting to reality enough to look at ourselves in the mirror. Israel wants to get even more creative in the sciences, but only related to war, and be more independent in their, industrial war complex. They don't want to use the soft sciences to evolve themselves, to heal themselves, to either look at themselves in the mirror and say, hey, you know what? There's actually ways we can be creative about ending war because we supposedly care for our kids and grandkids and hostages and all this stuff. No, it's just escalating the nonsense of the species responsible for the Anthropocene. And that's the species I share DNA with. And, there's a lot of places that didn't fire me. We just had a conflict of ethics, even though I was very clear at the beginning what my ethics are and what I don't compromise. For example, learner centered means learner centered, patient centered means patient centered, patron centered, customer service. All these things, they're easy. They're easy to somebody that doesn't suffer from HSD to process in the decision making of priorities, but it's not easy for you. So, for example, Taylor Bakra, I think, the MP before, he's still pouting. He's not answering me on Facebook, and 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 it's not fair because I tried to help him, and he thinks that it's okay to shun me because he's going through feelings that he has a hard time processing because he hasn't undergone a maturation process, right? And it relates a lot to learning interpersonal skills and, which are life skills, Saskatchewan New Start model example. So, he could have used my help before, but he didn't follow up when I first met him in Terrace. And then now he's all shocked and he's dealing with his self-imposed trauma of being pretty disconnected to reality, not seeing the patterns of what was coming and his part in it. And he still kind of wants to blame the helper, right? Bite the hand that could have fed him. Same thing, a neighbor here where I'm just saying, hey, I don't, sometimes I don't, or maybe I'll make a bigger effort and just say good morning, but then no conversations. And then he wants to start calling me asshole because he lost my friendliness, my social interaction skills, my curiosity, my willingness to engage in social interactions. But because I don't want to be called bad words if he has a feeling about an opinion, for example, that he brings up as a topic himself. So for me, I want to avoid, disrespect, right? That I don't deserve. Nobody does, but definitely not somebody who's role modeling respect and who, is the one always engaging to try to get to know people that don't try to get to know me, right? And don't try to get to know social skills that they could not be so toxic here. I have a new joke here. I'll tell one of my neighbors that I am able to have some somewhat serious, short attention span conversations with, but also some fun humor. I'm going to say, hey, I have a secret. I've been seeing other elders other old people. This building's toxic, but I've been going somewhere else and interacting with healthier older people. So I'm cheating on my neighbors. But the thing is the neighbors have had me all this time, and I've done some role modelings, and they also could have gotten free interactions with me or lessons in life skills, and they just don't choose it. And when I want to avoid people who haven't chosen to undergo the maturation process and learn healthy social skills, then it gets worse, right? It turns against me even more because now they know what they've lost in me and they're more upset with me. And the only skills they have is what hasn't worked already. They don't even have apology skills. So, yeah, that's the species I share DNA with. And again, it's an example. When people interact with me, they just go deeper because their intellectual laziness, their lack of motivation to self actualize into being better, and that's the concept of the Superman. I'm reading Nietzsche's Zarathustra, and one of the things the character says is humans are like on a tightrope, and on one side is animals, the other side is the idea of the Superman, right? To become more than we are, fulfill our potential. It resembles a little bit humanism in that way. And, I think if we look towards the cliff, because we're like dangling in the middle there where we are, and it's not working out, right? Humans on this planet not working out. Now, either we go back to the animals, which in a way, many are a lot more suited to live in a healthy way on this planet than we are, or we become more, right? We self-actualize into more. We mature into more. We do the personal development to become more. The idea of the Superman, capable of, let's say, not putting more money into war and using science only for war at this point, right? Or only for, self-destructing industries. But that when we see the work that needs to be done without the institutions and with just me trying to help, I don't know anybody else really who's having conversations about the human conditions requirement to become human. But people already think they're human, but they're actually worse than a lot of animals when it comes to being a good fit for the biosphere. But when they look at the idea of the Superman idea, and it's not like the DC Comics character, I'm just talking about being more than what we are now. For example, it would give up religions because, if Judaism or any other religions, Christianity would say, hey, you know what? It's not working out. These thoughts, they're not going to solve the problems of the world. There's no page in the Bible that says how to resolve climate change or how to even admit to ourselves that we're more into the magical paradigm as churches, money, than the supernatural ones. And how we are so far from walking the talk that we can't even recognize Martin is among us. He's not religious, but he's practicing our morals a lot more than we are, and it's measurable. I was telling my mom again about the farms. It's Mount Sentinel Farm, on the way to Nelson, between Castlegar and Nelson, that lost me, and how I was much healthier when I was working there, like long hours that I enjoyed. Like I was one of the first ones to start the fires in the morning, getting up really early, and sometimes working till late because I did dishes after, which I was happy to. But a lot of the benefits of going there was the healthy food at the Yellow Deli or the farm, because whole foods, just healthier foods, even if they were simple sometimes in the morning, or almost always the same sometimes, it was still so good for me, and it just energized me to do a lot of the work. And I said I'm not religious, and I'm not going to become religious, and they knew me months before, but they let me stay, and they believed in a miracle that I would become like them. People would tell me, there's a cult, they'll ask for all your money. Well, I don't have any money, and it's not why they kicked me out. They kicked me out because I didn't become religious, and I was getting annoyed at the end. I was saying the only way I could possibly become like you, and you could pray for that to happen, is a car accident with brain damage or drug overdose with brain damage, where the brain might reset and include your supernatural thing if I feel comfortable in this community. But to pray for these acts of violence to happen so that I they would think I belong. Instead of learning interpersonal skills, learning to respect how others have different beliefs and practice their values in different ways. They lost a worker that they needed because one guy was mostly responsible for the wood to heat that place in the winter, which is worse than here, the winters. He was having to go away for months, and he was happy that I learned everything I needed to learn to prepare a lot of the wood. And they lost me because of their paranoia and nonsense. Some might have thought I was like a spy or whatever. And I do demonstrate often more confidence than, let's say, police officers. And people's paranoia and inability to be critical thinkers, even though I could teach it to them, is again another example of something that's turned against me. So I would have stayed there a long time, at least the whole winter, and continued to work. I enjoyed working with the animals. I enjoyed working at the deli, even if mostly I was not interacting with customers, working in the kitchen and dishes. It was still rewarding to have a schedule and to have healthy food and to have people laugh at, my kindergarten level jokes, which didn't require a lot of creativity, but for them it was, wow, this guy's a real comedian. So this is a species I share DNA with, okay? It can't self-correct. In big part, it's religious and magical money ideas. It just takes over. It's like a computer that's so full of viruses that it can't operate in the way its DNA had intended, right? And it won't do the work to kind of diagnose the bad stuff out, even if I give it to them for free and work with them for free for years and years. So there's a lot of organizations that lost me, and the ones that I don't want to lose me anymore because it's harder for me is the ones where I work with kids and I see how hard it is for them to lose me. It just broke my heart too many times. So I'm a lot stricter with educational institutions now because my heart has too many scars already about their failures, this species, when it comes to letting me help not just their farmer doing their dishes, but with their kids, and I saw with religious groups, a lot of couples that were having friction, and instead of making use of my couples counseling skills or life skills, working with them is or their kids not passing their road tests, instead of letting them work with me a little bit, it's almost like read the Bible and it's going to work out, or pray and it's going to work out your road test. You might pass because you're doing it so many times, but then you might also crash when you're getting on and off the highway from there, so just the decisions don't come with confidence when the major tool as a thinking tool is faith, right? I'm going to close my eyes and get onto the highway because my faith is so strong that it'll turn out okay. But, and it sounds ridiculous saying it like this, but it is. When they have somebody like me that makes them uncomfortable because of my sapience and sentience, which is what they're capable of as well, but instead they prefer to go against their own sense of identity of what their morals are and not even notice it because they can't do the work to know, hey, if I was Jesus and I came here, although I think Jesus is not their favorite character from the way they interpret their Christianity, but it's sad that they don't realize that's a good person, and we judged him and made him leave because he doesn't have the flaws we have, and that's pretty much it. I don't have the flaws of being a ridiculous person in a community. I don't have the flaws of succumbing to the norm. Okay, peer pressure, I've never succumbed to that, and so many of you do, and it spreads your HSD among yourselves so much more. And it's so prevalent now that if you interact with somebody like me and you understand a little bit, oh, I have to fight off these responses to stimuli, because they're not good for me, my family, for community, for the human condition, for anything. But how do I do that? It's so strong within you that you can't stop. I'm looking again at the intersection outside the library and seeing even police officers just being ridiculously bad at driving just with that intersection, and I sure wish that they would have done like maybe a traffic circle there. I wonder if I can write something to the mayor today and say, you don't bring a traffic circle there. It's dangerous.